I love a vulture. I feel like they have the worst reputation, but they're just eating stuff that's already dead.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't even kill stuff.
It's really so dark.
I just never saw anyone out in the British countryside who looked like me. Ethnic minority kids coming out into the countryside who arrived and they're a bit like, this is going to be really boring, and fell in love with nature. You know, I had everyone going like, oh, how did you do it? We thought this was impossible. And I was like, I don't think you ever tried very hard then. I was quite I think tenacious was the word my teachers used to use. Loud, opinionated teenager.
All I was hearing there is birds. Some birds have fashion sense.
Yeah. Welcome to Connect to Nature. I'm Amy Chapman and I'm a gardener who's passionate about getting new people into gardening and growing their own food.
And I'm Katrina Ridley, presenter, broadcaster, sustainable advocate in general. And I feel very strongly about getting everyone into nature and that everyone belongs there. Amy, how have you connected to nature this week?
Well, this week, for the first time in a very long time, I got on a swing.
Cool.
I just found this like massive swing that was hanging from a beautiful oak tree. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get on it. I feel like adults don't get on swings. We don't swing enough. And just like laying back, swinging underneath the oak tree, looking up at the leaves. I thought it was beautiful and so much fun. And I just finally had that sense of play in the outdoors that I think is something that we kind of lose as adults.
Yeah.
So fully enjoyed myself on the swing.
I really enjoyed that like accidental connection to nature. I mean, like you saw the swing and then you're like, oh, a tree. That's nice.
Yeah, a swing. I'm going to get on it.
Yeah.
I have to.
Cute.
It's rude not to. How have you connected to nature this week?
Well, very mixed feelings, but you may or may not know, I've lived on a narrowboat for the last 5 years. I feel like that's 80% of my personality. And now I'm moving in with my boyfriend soon on land.
Oh, how does it feel?
So, exciting and the right thing to do. But I think because I know it's coming, I'm sort of remembering all the things I now just take for granted every day. So waking up and just seeing two coots having a fight.
Oh,
and
cute.
And just going, oh my gosh, when you're in a flat or in a building, you are not subjected to that naturally. So I sort of keep treasuring each memory and trying to think how can I bring nature actively into my everyday life when I live on land?
Yeah, I guess it's going to be more difficult when you're not just automatically surrounded by nature. But our next guest who we've got in is Dr Mya-Rose Craig, who is all about teaching people how to connect with nature, especially birds. She's been birding for so long, since she was really young, which is crazy.
When I first sort of wanted to start working in this nature space, I remember talking to people and she was the name that came up all the time. Even when I was working with directors for TV stuff or documentary stuff, I'm not kidding, 5 people were saying to me, have you seen this bird girl? Because the stuff she's doing, this girl's going to be a star. Yeah, I'm really excited to actually hear about that firsthand rather than just watching all the videos. So shall we hear some more?
Let's do it.
Hi, my name's Mya-Rose Craig and I'm an environmental campaigner and activist as well as a very passionate birdwatcher. And I've always loved birds and birdwatching. I come from a family of birdwatchers. And so I've always had this really deep connection with nature and the outdoors. It's been very important to me. And I think because of that, I've always been aware of environmental issues and been very worried about them. And I think on top of that, same for a lot of people in my generation, I've always been very concerned about climate change and had this kind of sense of impending doom about almost the end of the world. And I think that's why at a very young age, I got involved in environmental campaigning. I was around 12 years old and I think I just felt a responsibility to say something. And on top of that, I was very frustrated that none of the grown-ups seemed to be saying anything. And I think in retrospect, that was life-changing for me because one of my biggest lessons was to just be loud and annoying. And I grew to realize that if people were telling me to be quiet, then I was probably going in the right direction. And I think to kind of learn that lesson as a young woman and to see those as good things was just incredible. But because of all of this, I always try and maintain my actual connection with nature. And a lot of that does involve birds. I'm always looking for birds wherever I am, because there are always birds around. I'd really recommend paying a bit more attention, because you will realize they are literally everywhere. But on top of that, I'm very much a countryside girl. So whenever I go to London, which is quite often, I like to ground myself by finding a big tree in one of the parks and just sitting under it for like 10-20 minutes. And it feels incredible and very grounding. I would very much recommend.
Hello, so we've got Dr. Mya-Rose Craig with us. Can I just check with you, what would you like us to refer to you as? The full title?
No, that's okay.
If I was a doctor, I'd be like, everyone must call me doctor.
Yeah, milk
all the
it.
time.
Yeah, Mya-Rose is okay. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
We're going to go straight in with a little game that we've been doing. It just keeps getting weirder and weirder the more we come up with these options. So I guess it's a kind of this or that situation. And we just want your first instinctive response. You don't have to overthink it. And then we'll just see what kind of weird you are, like us. Are you ready? I'm going to count you in. Land or sea?
Land.
Would you rather have whiskers or antlers?
Antlers.
Speak tree or speak whale?
Speak tree.
Have feathers instead of hair or webbed feet forever?
Oh, feathers, definitely.
Feathers. Sleep in a cave or a bird's nest?
Bird's nest.
Hedwig or Pingu?
Pingu.
Amazing. Be followed everywhere by a flock of friendly sparrows or a single judgmental magpie?
Oh, a judgmental magpie. That would be lovely.
Raise a baby panda or a baby crocodile?
Baby panda, surely.
Leave a slime trail or cough up furballs?
Furballs, I think.
Oh,
I feel like I could have ended on a less gross one, but now we've done that.
I feel like a slime trail is very, like, everyone's seeing that, you know? Like, it's very there.
there's no hiding that.
I could do the furballs in private.
The slime trail's giving me, what's that character from Monsters, Inc?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
They're like the one that gets like her hands trapped in the thing. I am curious though, you would like the judgmental magpie.
Yeah, that surprised me.
No, I love corvid. I love, like, magpies and crows because they're so smart. Like, I feel like they already have the capacity for judgment and they're so clever, and I think it would just be really fun to hang out with one all the time.
Last weekend, I went for a little frolic in my local woodland.
She does give very fairy vibes, to be fair.
Thank you. I was also picking mushrooms, the kind that you can use as fire starters.
Very cool. And at your favourite woodland trust spot as well.
How did you know?
The Mycelium Network obviously told me.
Well, I think the work the Woodland Trust does to create vital woodland habitats is so important, and not just for wildlife, for all of us humans too, because being around trees can boost your mental and physical health by reducing anxiety and stress and giving us clean air to breathe.
Yeah, also they're home to so many essential bugs, rare species as well, like red squirrels, pine martins, and hazel dormice.
Exactly. That's why I love connecting to nature as a member of the Woodland Trust.
That's a good thing. That's exactly what the podcast is all about.
Amazing.
So let's connect to nature together by joining the Woodland Trust from just £4 a month.
And discover how being a member of the UK's largest woodland conservation charity benefits ourselves and the nature around us.
Oh my God, I have to say this to you, but I feel like you're the most relevant person. But my friend, we were talking about the most ridiculous things he's asked AI. And one of them was, do birds know that we change our clothes, or do they think we're changing our skin every day?
Ooh, I don't know.
I'm not expecting you to have the answer just because you're a doctor. That's probably not the stuff that...
I think they know. I don't know if they'd notice our clothes. I feel like is that... Oh, no, because crows and stuff do identify people if they have, like, a certain hat that they wear all the time. They'll be like, there's the person in the red hat. So,
really?
like, maybe, yeah. I mean, not all birds are that clever, not gonna lie. But like, maybe, actually.
All I was hearing there is birds. Some birds have fashion sense. That's why.
And crows are so smart. Do you feel like magpies have a bad reputation? Because it seems like you're into them. But not everyone is.
Yeah, I think a lot of those kind of birds have a bad rep when they're pretty harmless. Something like a robin is pretty universally loved, and they're actually like quite angry, aggressive birds, which is fine. It's quite fun to watch them. Versus, I think kind of crows and magpies are just getting on with it. And I do always do the rhyming song in my head whenever I see them as well. I'll be like, oh, one for sorrow. So I feel like I'm very aware of the magpies around me at all times, and they're normally just kind of hanging out. They're pretty harmless in the scheme of things. You just got to give them a bit of respect, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm so into an underrated animal. I love a vulture. I feel like they have the worst reputation, but they're just eating stuff that's already dead. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't even kill stuff.
It's really so dark, so dark. I feel like before we continue, in case someone's very confused right now, can you, if someone hasn't heard about you or your work, can you explain who you are and a bit about what you do?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Mya-Rose Craig, probably far better known as Bird Girl. And I really like birds, and I've kind of spent the last 10 years or so of my life doing environmental campaigning because I really love birds. I feel like I have to do my part to kind of protect them and protect the planet. And that's everything from kind of, very global climate change campaigning to talking to people about how they can help the birds in their garden. And I love British wildlife in particular. I think it's really special. I think it's very underrated. And we have loads of, just amazing stuff on our doorstep.
Completely agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. So I was doing some reading about you before this, and you started young. Like, you've really gone for it. Where did that passion for birds and wildlife come from? When did it start?
It's been with me literally forever because I come from a family of birdwatchers. And so I kind of grew up with a sister and parents who were also super obsessed with birds. And I remember I had this weird moment when I started primary school, and I was like, not everyone is obsessed with birds. Like, what do they do at the weekend? And I just didn't really get it. And so I've always loved birds and nature. Like, I was 9 days old the first time they took me birdwatching. And I think because of that, I grew up very aware of environmental issues. And I feel like maybe it's a slightly generational thing, but I'm kind of an age where I was always aware of environmental issues, like biodiversity loss, deforestation, climate change. And so I kind of got to an age where, and I think it's really common because I was around like 12 maybe when I started campaigning. You kind of reach that tween age and you just start getting really irritated with all the grown-ups around you, and you're just going, you're all useless. There's like all these massive things going on and no one's doing anything, and no one's even really talking about it felt like. So I was like, okay, I guess like I'm gonna talk about it. And that's when I started calling myself Bird Girl. I didn't realize it was gonna kind of stick in the way it has. I'm not mad about it, but I didn't realize that at the time. But it's crazy to think it's been over a decade now.
That's mad that like when you were 12 you were doing all of that, and I'm thinking, what was I doing at 12? Like trying to sneak off to like a house party or something. Like
nothing of that much value, that's for sure.
No. And I feel like I just need to cut through and ask this because, and you like feel free to answer this very honestly, do you just get bored of people asking you about birds all the time? Because like literally every chat you must have.
I actually don't. Because it's just, I don't know, I feel like everyone comes at it from such a unique perspective, and like one of my favorite things people can ever say to me is being like, oh, like, talking to you inspired me to start bird watching, and I'm like, we're slowly indoctrinating people into the cult. But it's really good fun. I love hearing about what people saw at the weekend. I particularly love chatting to little kids and asking them if they have any fun bird facts, because they're almost always gross and or like slightly disgusting, which I think is really good fun. And it's just really lovely to kind of share that passion with people. And I do feel like now that I'm in my 20s, kind of my friends are slowly getting into bird watching as well, who like, even the ones in secondary school, they were like, bird watching is really boring. And I went around one of my friend's flats recently and she had a pair of binoculars and a guide on the shelf, and I was like, it comes for all of us eventually.
Maybe that's the next like fashion trend. What is it like around East London? Binoculars, like the next.
Yeah.
Next big
the
accessory.
ultimate gulp core accessory.
Yeah, I can take it. Oh yeah, sorry, I have to mention this because you mentioned, Amy looked at me because as soon as we knew we were chatting to you, I was like, I need to ask her about her bird facts because I have one. I mean, I should have properly fact checked it, but I went to Cape Town earlier this year and went to a penguin place. And my fact is that, I'll get you to check if it's true, penguins sneeze out or snort to filter seawater.
That sounds correct.
I love that you're like, this is
Sounds
the
right.
first I've heard. It could be some South African person having me on. And they said like that's how they filter seawater. That now literally sounds like someone's made it up, and I'm going to go home and Google and be like, have I just told Bird Girl a wrong fact?
No, I stand by it. I think that sounds scientifically accurate. Maybe.
Makes sense.
I think
from a
I've never
doctor.
Adds
thought
up.
about how penguins manage all the salt before. Even though it's very cool that these birds are basically the fish of the bird world.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
they
Google
are.
that.
Yeah.
What's your favourite bird fact?
I think in terms of British wildlife, like to go back to robins, like obviously they're really friendly and they come and hang out with us all the time. And I found out kind of back in the day when they used to live in forests, not gardens, they would follow wild hogs around because they'd like dig up the earth and like churn it all up, and then they could come along and have the worms. So I found out when they're kind of hanging out with us in the garden while we're digging, it's kind of they think that we're massive pigs basically. And I thought that was, I don't know, just quite fun. Puts a different twist on the relationship. I love the fact that woodpeckers have tongues that literally wrap around their brain because they're so long.
That's crazy.
That's crazy to picture that.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of bird facts now.
I mean, that was fantastic.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're dinosaurs in general. I remember the first time, like quite a basic fact, but I remember the first time I found that out as a kid, I was like, that's so cool. And like since then, I've been lucky enough to see birds that literally do look like dinosaurs, like cassowaries in Australia, which are like these 6 foot tall, like killing machines, basically. And it's just like, I love that connection to the prehistoric world. I feel like crocs and stuff like that, sharks get all the credit in terms of that, but birds are still here too.
So was there a moment where you realised that your like natural love for birds and nature, was there a moment where you realised there was something deeper there that you needed to share and do?
I've always had quite a strong desire to share that with people. I think probably especially growing up and it being quite, you know, an unusual hobby within my peer group, I was always so excited to meet other people my age, especially, who also loved birds. And I also just think kind of having that love of nature and connection to nature is so important. Like I've done a lot of work historically in terms of the kind of mental health benefits of access to nature. Like, you know, the NHS is literally doing green prescribing. They say that 20 minutes outside every day reduces chance of depression by 20%. Like, I think that connection to nature is so important. And it's also just fun, which is why I've loved in the last few years seeing more and more people going outside. I feel like that's been increasing since COVID. And it's kind of this double thing. It's a thing that I love, and I love sharing that with people, but I also think it's really kind of important for our lives and our well-being. And birds, in my opinion, are the most accessible part of nature in the UK. You know, whether you're in the middle of the city or the middle of the countryside, there's always going to be birds hanging out.
That's so true. Birds are everywhere and they are so accessible. What is it that you think are the barriers to people connecting with birds or with the nature around them?
I think there's a lot of different things going on. I mean, firstly, I think most people don't realise this, but the UK is one of the worst countries in the world in terms of biodiversity. We kind of think of it as being very green, but actually we've lost nearly 50% of our wildlife. So I think there's just kind of not enough for it to be easily accessible. I think a lot of people who haven't spent much time in nature think of it as being very boring because, you know, there's this very like
old school way of doing it, which is very much like, I don't know, like scientific names and lists and, you know, like lots of old white guys and Macs kind of twitching in the rain, you know, and that doesn't appeal to a lot of people. And so like a lot of the stuff that I do is figuring out with kids and teenagers especially kind of different ways of engaging with nature, and that can be anything from kind of photography and filmmaking to art to writing to kind of, you know, I don't know, music. I just think we humans forever have had such a strong connection with nature and the outdoors. It didn't used to be something that was even separate to us, and so I think it doesn't have to be this very rigid scientific hobby. It can just be like another kind of very fulfilling, beautiful part of our lives.
I feel so envious of hearing about that upbringing with your parents, of like, I wish my family were like that deep into birding or whatever it is. But I suppose in your career so far, and it's been a long one because you've started from such a young age, you've met so many people, you've done so many things. Is there a person you've met or an encounter you've had with an animal that just changed your life and you'll never forget?
I mean, in terms of people, basic answer, but still very valid. I've been lucky enough to meet David Attenborough, and that was so cool. Lives up to the hype, like lovely person. His voice sounds like that in real life. Like when he's just talking, like that was just like dream come true. And same, I was also lucky enough to, obviously she unfortunately just passed away, but meet Jane Goodall, which was also kind of meeting a childhood hero and being able to talk to her about her life and her experiences as kind of a young woman in the environmental space. I just found she was just such an inspirational person. I think in terms of wildlife encounters, it's difficult because there have been so many, which is, I think, a cop-out answer, but also true. I think actually it's kind of quite, I've been really lucky to see all these kind of incredible birds around the world, and I guess like two answers which are kind of the opposite of each other but like both valid is like, firstly, I love the kind of very intimate moments, especially with my garden birds. So kind of during COVID, for example, I got very familiar with the different characters in my garden, like, you know, the blue tit that was always coming in and the very stupid blackbird chick that we thought wouldn't make it and did somehow. And, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it was so lovely to be able to build up those relationships. But on the flip side, I'm also a big fan of like the big scary exotic birds like the cassowary. One of my favorite birds in the world is the harpy eagle, which is the biggest eagle in the world, lives in the Amazon, hunts by grabbing monkeys and sloths off the top of trees, and has like a very, I don't want to say evil, like a very angry look in its eye. And I spent years and years trying to see this bird, and I saw it when I was 17, and it was like incredible, life-changing stuff. And I think maybe that's the one thing about the UK. I'd love if we had more like big, scary birds. But it's just, I guess both of those, it's just about kind of creating that emotional connection and letting yourself get really excited about the small things.
When you were talking about that species of bird, I was like, it's a villain bird.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Black to Nature, which I believe you founded when you were 13, which is mind-blowing. Can you tell us a bit about the work that you've done there?
I started Black to Nature because I was a kind of young ethnic minority girl who I just never saw anyone out in the British countryside who looked like me. And, you know, I had people telling me that basically these communities couldn't engage with nature, had no interest in engaging with nature. And I was like, I know that's not true because of my own family. And again, it kind of went back to wanting to share the thing I loved with other people, and kind of because of various personal experiences as well, I as quite a young person felt it was very important. And so it kind of, I didn't mean to start a charity, it kind of fell into that. It started with this just first nature camp where I wanted to spend a weekend doing fun bird activities, and there's stuff like that in the US but not in the UK, so I was like, yeah, okay, I'll organize it. And I basically just did a weekend itinerary of stuff I wanted to do, and then invited people to subsidize it, which actually worked really well.
Sounds great.
And then kind of everyone else who was coming was like a white teenage boy, and it felt much more personal when it was an event I was organizing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something about this. And so I kind of went into local communities and talked to like family, friends of friends and stuff like that, and I was like, hey, is there anyone else who'd be interested in this? And very long story short, the reason this all ended up being significant is because you had ethnic minority kids coming out into the countryside who arrived and they're a bit like, this is going to be really boring, and fell in love with nature. And I had everyone going like, oh, how did you do it? We thought this was impossible. And I was like, I don't think you ever tried very hard then. And I ended up setting it up as a charity, or kind of turning it into a long-term project. And I went like, actually, there's there's a long journey ahead, and kind of it just felt very personally important to me as someone who had been lucky enough to grow up surrounded by nature. And I guess like without getting into it massively, my mum has bipolar disorder, and so as a young person I used nature to kind of cope with that and deal with that. And I think subconsciously I wanted other kids to have those tools. I don't know, it's like one of those weird things in retrospect where it's like, how did that happen? But at the time it all felt really obvious, which is kind of ridiculous. But I was quite I think tenacious was the word my teachers used to use. Loud, opinionated teenager.
I actually love you speaking so specifically and vulnerably about that, because I think that's like such a practical application. I've also got friends with bipolar who find that connection to nature so key. And we were talking about this previously, but I don't know whether it's now just like the people I mix with or see in the nature space. I'm like, there's so many cool people specifically around birds. I'm like, I look at you, Nadeem, Lyra, I'm like, oh my God, these are all people I want to be like. Do you think the generation after us will still have that stereotype of like a white male in a rain mat? Do you think the next generation has reimagined it already?
I think it's fading away. Like, I think back to when I was a kid in the 2000s, and the kind of stereotypes of it all being like middle-aged white blokes was true. There were literally like 3 other women that we knew or something, let alone, and it was really exciting a few years later when like young people started showing up, and we were like, whoa, this is like never happened before, which is crazy to kind of look back. That was maybe 10-15 years ago, and it's crazy to look back now, because I know loads of really cool people who are also bird watchers, and I'm not biased, I don't think.
No,
but
sure.
I also I follow loads of really cool people online who they're really cool and interesting and make birds cool and interesting. And I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about reshaping how we imagine engaging with nature. Like, I follow accounts that make stupid reels and memes about bird watching, and it's like, that's a pretty new phenomenon. And I like to think so, yeah. Like I feel more like the bird watching stereotype is kind of an old stereotype rather than the reality, which is so nice to see.
It's definitely shifting. I actually follow, I don't know if you follow the RSPB on TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do the same thing on Instagram, but it's actually
they're a bit more serious
so
on
funny.
Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
I actually feel like with the bird people in nature, like they're kind of like the cool ones. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like birding is so ahead. I'm like, oh, like in Mean Girls, they're like the really cool ones. And we're all like catching up.
Yeah, I do feel like, do we need a bit of justice for the other nerds out there, the kind of lizard people or insect people who are kind of going at it with a bit less credit? I don't know very much about insects. Maybe
we need to get some more lizard enthusiasts on the podcast.
Why aren't
frog
reptiles
people
going viral?
Yeah. We want to finish with one practical, actionable thing that you would recommend anyone who's listening to do that might help connect them with nature or get into birding. what would you recommend people have a go at?
I mean, when people come and talk to me about bird watching, the thing that they always say is like, oh, I can't do it because I don't know what any of the bird species are and I don't have all the fancy equipment. And, you know, I think the most important thing is that bird watching is like literally clues in the title. You don't need to know what you're looking at. You don't need to know the Latin names. You don't need to know the calls. You don't need to have binoculars. You just need to go outside and look at some birds. And, you know, just spending a couple minutes a day looking at birds, I think will improve your quality of life. Like I said, they're everywhere. I used to, you know, get in trouble. I actually used to drive my friends nuts because we'd be talking and I'd like be looking over their shoulder at birds. And so I think just kind of becoming more aware of the nature around you and kind of enjoying it on a fundamental level. And from there, you know, there's so many free resources to start figuring out what you're looking at. And it can all get very fun and very competitive if that's what you're into. But I think just kind of allowing birds to have a space in your life, I think it could be like slightly life-changing in a very small way.
Well, thank you for just expressing your like natural tenacity in the world from such a young age. And I'm sure, you know, you've inspired so many people already and you've got a long career ahead of you. So thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. I'm going to get some binoculars now.
It's been on my list for so long.
Oh, you won't regret it. You won't regret it.
What more could you want from an episode? We had bird facts. We had Gorp Core. I feel like bird people are just the coolest people, like you said.
On reflection, I'm now like, oh my gosh, did I really just talk about Pingu? I'm big bird with like actual bird girl.
But she seemed into it, and she's a big fan of the magpie as well, which I like. I like all of the underrepresented birds.
I just keep getting that vision of Mean Girls, of all the different tables, and like the bird people are the cool people.
I would definitely want to sit with them.
And I think what I admire about her most is how naturally this whole journey has come about. You know, when you meet someone who you think you were born to do this, she was never deciding between like birding and being an accountant. You know, this is like, it feels like her destiny to do it, and always excited to see what comes next. Because she's like 24?
Yeah.
Is that it? And she's written a book. She's done all these things.
Oh my God.
Will she be bird girl forever? Will she move into reptile girl?
No, I do feel like she has done enough. Like she could stop now and she'd be like, yeah, I've achieved plenty.
Yeah.
But she's making birding cool, accessible. She started it from like 11 years old, which is just madness.
Inspiring for us. And also I think if I had kids or younger people around, amazing to hear you can do stuff from a young age, you know.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to Connect to Nature. We'd love to know how you've been connecting to the wild this week. So please let us know.
Yeah, and you can share your stories with us on Instagram or in the comments of this episode. Please do.
And don't forget to follow the podcast for new episodes wherever you get your podcasts.